This is Millie, and this is our pedagogical resource and supporting lesson plan for a Year 5 class. As you may be able to see from the small piece of paper, this resource was once called a cabbage press, which was used to mash potatoes and get water out of cabbages. You might know this as a pestle and mortar in your household, and it may come with a bowl nowadays, but this is what it used to look like in the Victorian period. This is made from wood, which is an insulator, which does not allow heat to pass through. Therefore, it doesn't burn the user and does not burn the utensil as a whole. A cabbage press was used in the Victorian period by servants when in the kitchen. We will be using this resource to introduce the conversation of social classes, diets and poverty in the Victorian era, which overall encourages the children to compare popular Victorian foods to their individual favourite foods, asking if they have any similar utensils at home, etc., or even if they do have a pestle or mortar. This leads us on to the context of this lesson and what we have previously learnt to lead up to this lesson. This lesson is the 7th one, and it's the final lesson in which children are learning about the Victorians. In the first lesson, we introduced the topic of the Victorians and included a timeline. In the second, we spoke about society, money and poverty. In the third, we discussed the monarchy and hierarchy, which can link into servants. In the fourth one, we discussed schools, employment and child labour, and we had a group task. In lesson 5, we discussed food and typical diets within class, which then leads back to this lesson today. And lesson 6, we, as a class, we dressed up as Victorians and we got to taste typical Victorian foods such as fruit turnovers, cheesecakes and sandwiches, which was provided by the staff. And this lesson is we are going to use different materials to create and design a cabbage press, and justify why we have used these materials, and overall have a competition on whose cabbage press is most effective. Linking into this, our prior learning would be children have been learning about the Victorians, such as the culture, the monarchy, social class and diets, etc. Children currently have a strong understanding of the Victorian culture and lifestyles and are beginning to conceptualise social classes, food, money and hierarchies.
The resources we'll use for this lesson plan are the cabbage press, which we've hired from the museum, clay, clothes for dress up such as an apron, cloth and hats, paint, pens, photographs and examples of Victorian food. For our lesson outcomes, we aim that all children are able to create their own historically correct cabbage press using given resources. Most children are able to describe the features and uses of a cabbage press, and some children are able to understand the significance of a cabbage press in terms of hierarchy and different lifestyles. Our lesson objectives. I can create my own cabbage press and describe its purpose. I can confidently describe the need for a cabbage press in the Victorian era, as well as who it would have been used by. And I can confidently compare and contrast different social classes within the Victorian society. Links to their national curriculum. Deepen their chronological knowledge and understanding of British, local and world history from the earliest times to the present day and how people's lives have shaped this nation. DFE 2013. Art and design. Pupils should be taught to improve their mastery of art and design techniques, including drawing, painting and sculpture with a range of materials. Mathematics. Make 3D shapes using modelling materials and touching on the subject of surface area. Why is the dome section of this item so big? What are the different shapes used within this item? Science. Recognise some common conductors and insulators and associate metals with being good conductors. What material is this object made out of? Why have they used this material? Why is this object wooden? What does insulation mean? English, spoken language. Ask relevant questions to extend their understanding and knowledge.
Emma. Main activity. Each student will be given a piece of modelling clay and asked to create their own cabbage press. The purpose of this task is for pupils to modify the original cabbage press to make it a more effective household tool. For example, students could create a newly shaped press used for a range of vegetables. In accordance to John Dewey's 1938 theory of experiential learning, the use of a modelling clay will allow children to be hands-on in the task and spark their creativity and curiosity as a result. This is an individual task which will last about 15 to 20 minutes. However, children can discuss on their tables why they might need the item in the Victorian era as well as the modern day. On every table will be a picture of the item, which the children can use as inspiration or grounds for their own press. They have to identify why their cabbage press is effective and the modifications they have made. Challenge. Write a short report about their cabbage press, including its features, design, purpose, and who would best use the utensil in both time eras, linking to class and hierarchy if possible. Support. One-to-one support is still there for Child B, as they may get distracted with the clay. Child E is sat with Child C and D to have motivation to do the task and move on to the challenges. Children A and F have written instructions with SEM-friendly pictures for support, and teacher will come over and read for them and answer questions if needed. Assessment. Teacher to be visible around the classroom for questions, but to also ensure the concentration is on the clay for the task and not just for fun. Teacher to go to table and ask about social class and hierarchy to link back to previous lessons and the recap. Plenary. Clay to dry for around 5 minutes while the children explain what they think went well and why they think their cabbage press is the most effective. Teacher to answer any final questions before children can collect their cabbage press and walk around the classroom looking at other children's designs and thinking about why it would be effective. Allowing pupils to discuss and compare their creations in accordance to Vygotsky's 1978 collaborative learning theory will help solidify what went well and what the children have learnt from this task. Challenge. The children who could go on to the further challenge to explain who would use this utensil and explain what they can tell the hierarchy was like in the Victorian era from this. Support. Teacher to ensure everyone has understood the meaning behind a cabbage press and the historical connections. One-to-one support to sit with Child B and ask questions about the key features of the item. Assessment. After the children have gone around the class discussing their cabbage presses, pupils should use smiley faces and unsure faces to describe to the teacher their level of understanding and concept of the lesson.